This audio is for educational purposes only. I hope this will add light to your journey. Please share this audio to your loved ones, family and friends. Thank you.
Bradshaw on The Family by John Bradshaw. 1. Overview. The crisis. Our very psychology has been shaken to its foundation. To grasp the meaning of the world today, we use a language created to express the world of yesterday. The life of the past seems to us nearer our true nature, but only for the reason that it is nearer our language. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. The last 45 years have ushered in a new awareness about the impact of families on the formation of solid self-esteem. While we've always known that our families influence us, we're now discovering that the influence is beyond what we had imagined. We now understand that families are dynamic social systems, having structural laws, components, and rules. The most important family rules are those that determine what it means to be a human being. These rules embrace the most fundamental beliefs about raising children. What parents believe about human life and human fulfillment governs their way of raising children. The way children are parented forms their core beliefs about themselves. Nothing could be more important. Children are any culture's greatest natural resource. The future of the world depends on our children's conceptions of themselves. All their choices depend on their views of themselves. But a crisis exists in the family today. This crisis centers on our parenting rules and the multi-generational process by which families perpetuate these rules. Sickness of the soul, shame. The parenting rules I refer to are abusive and shaming. They destroy children's self-esteem, resulting in shame. According to psychologist Gershon Kaufman in his book, Shame is a sickness of the soul. It is the most poignant experience of the self by the self. Whether felt in humiliation or cowardice, or in a sense of failure to cope successfully with challenge. Shame is a wound felt from the inside, dividing us both from ourselves and from one another. According to Kaufman, shame is the source of most of the disturbing inner states that deny full human life. Depression, alienation, self-doubt, isolating loneliness, paranoid and schizoid phenomena. Compulsive disorders, splitting of the self, perfectionism, a deep sense of inferiority, inadequacy or failure, the so-called borderline conditions and disorders of narcissism, all result from shame. Shame is a kind of self-murder. Internalized, shame is characterized by a kind of psychic numbness that becomes the foundation for a kind of living death. Forged in the matrix of our source relationships, shame conditions every other relationship in our lives. Shame destroys self-esteem. Shame and guilt. Shame is at the heart of our wound and differs greatly from the feeling of guilt. Guilt says, I've done something wrong. Shame says, there is something wrong with me. Guilt says, I've made a mistake. Shame says, I am a mistake. Guilt says, what I did was not good. Shame says, I am no good. The difference is distinct and profound. Our parenting rules have not been seriously updated in years. They come from a time when monarchical patriarchy ruled the day rather than democracy. The high divorce rate, violent teenage disorders, massive drug abuse, and epidemic incest, eating disorders, and physical battering, all are evidence that something is radically wrong. The old rules no longer work. Our consciousness has changed, as has our view of the world. Shame through abandonment. Our parenting rules primarily shame children through varying degrees of abandonment. Parents abandon the children in the following ways: 1. By actually physically leaving them. 2. By failing to model their own emotions for their children, and by failing to affirm their children's expressions of emotion. 3. By failing to provide for their children's developmental dependency needs. 4. By physically, sexually, emotionally and spiritually abusing them. 5. By using their children to take care of their own unmet dependency needs. 6. By using children to take care of their marriages. 7. By hiding and denying their shame secrets to the outside world, so that the child Children have to protect these covert issues, in order to keep the family balance. 8. By not giving children enough of their time, attention, and direction. 9. By acting shameless. Children's needs are insatiable, in the sense that they need their parents, continuously throughout childhood. No 5-year-old ever packed his bags, and called a family meeting to thank his parents for their support, and a dance as he got ready to make his way in the world. It takes 15 years, before nature awakens these urges to leave home and parents. Children need their parents to be there for them. Abandoned children have no one there for them. Children may even have to take care of their parents. The preciousness and uniqueness every human child possesses are destroyed through abandonment. The child is alone and alienated. This abandonment creates a shame-based inner core, emergence of the false self. Once a child's inner self is flawed by shame, the experience of self is painful. To compensate, the child develops a false self in order to survive. The false self forms a defensive mask, distracting the true self from its pain and inner loneliness. After years of acting, performing and pretending, the child loses contact with the true self. That true self is numbed out. The false self cover-up makes it impossible to develop self-esteem. The crisis is far worse than is generally known, because adults who parent their children badly cover up the shame-based inner selves. So, the crisis is not just about how we raise our children, it's about a large number of people who look like adults, talk and dress like adults, but who are actually adult children. These adult children often run our schools, our churches, and our government. They also create our families. This book is about the crisis in the family today, the crisis of adult children raising children who will become adult children.